Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we're going to get into breakup to make up to break up again. What's the odds of staying together? So, doing this for 5 years now, I get asked the question a lot in coaching sessions. What's the odds of us staying together? What do you think the chances are? And to be honest, after doing a live coaching session of 2 hours, 3 hours, which a lot of them go that long, I can kind of give you a hypothesis, which is an educated guess, which is better than just your friends or family or people off the streets that just get snippets. And usually, a lot of times, this will kind of surprise you. A lot of times I'll answer, well, there's a 50-50 chance. And someone might not be very happy with that. But there's a big difference by saying there's a 50-50 chance, right? That means that there's a chance here. Things went well, and usually if I say there's a 50-50 chance, number one, you were a pretty good partner by what you've told me. Okay? You haven't done anything atrociously bad. Okay? That you were like, because sometimes people tell me, you did that? You said that about their mom? Well, I was really upset. It's like, whoa, okay. So 50-50 chance is something that people want a little higher percentage of that. A lot of times that's what you're going to get. Best case scenario, if you left the relationship pretty good and you were a pretty good partner. Okay, when I say you're a pretty good partner 80% of the time, the 80-20 principle, you're not perfect, but overall you're pretty good. And they know that. Attraction wavered, things changed, there was an identity change, they changed a job. There's all kinds of different things that can come up. But if you're really thinking about it, okay? If you're really thinking about it, a 50-50 chance is good. Now, if someone has a 90% chance of getting back together and they know that, they usually don't contact me. You know why? Because they're like, I know the buttons to push on this person. I know that they can't be without someone for more than 10 days. They know that. So odds of staying together 50-50 are good, right? If you had a legitimate breakup. Now, sometimes I'll say to people, not anytime soon. That means that something's going on in that person's life that you were with for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years that has changed them identity-wise, which is usually a job, a new set of friends, new roommates is a big one. And you're all of a sudden like, wow, they changed so much. They're going to have to see how that costume, how that identity fits for a while. And they're not going to, for example, when someone says, well, I just want to see what it's like to be single. I just want to see what it's like to not be with anyone. And this just crushes the other person. But the reality is that just means not anytime soon. They want to try this out for a little while. Okay, number 3. If you got together, do you believe deep down that the major problems are fixed? Talk about this all the time. This might be redundant for a lot of people. But it happens all the time. There's a chance, there's an opportunity, there's usually a window somewhere in the breakup where you guys might contact each other, you might talk, and you might, all the things that went on in the breakup, you're kind of going through your head and you're going, well, this was a problem, that was a problem. I've had clients before, oh, she used to say she didn't like how I dressed. So they go out and buy a whole new wardrobe of clothes that she would have liked. And they're like, yeah, I'm dressing nicer now. It's like, really? There's got to be bigger problems than that. It's just not that simple usually. Because a lot of times people will tell you little snippets in relationships, but the big ones, especially women, will not outrightly tell you what's wrong. That's why communication is key. This is why during the breakup, sometimes people get information and they just keep pushing it away. They keep going, hey, it can't be that. It can't be that. It can't be that. It's like, well, that's why I always tell people to write out their story. We have one story on deck today because a lot of times when you write out your story, I'm like, she said or he said right there why they broke up with you. Well, I don't think it's that. It's like, well, do you believe them to be a liar? Why would they lie to you? Why would they lie to you? Poultry flowers, good to see you on deck. Number 4, if someone is attempting to overcompensate, this is one of the biggest ones. So getting back to the idea that you break up to make up to break up again. So what do I mean by that? A lot of times there's this 2-week, 3-week period in between a breakup where things are really sensitive and there's an opportunity because you were a good partner or they were a good partner, or you guys were a good couple more often than not. And so you get back together, but you don't really fix the problems. But someone attempts to overcompensate. I'll give you a good example. There's men out there that are just untidy, disorganized, not clean in the kitchen or the bathroom, right? And the girlfriend deals with that for a while, complains a little bit, but kind of picks up after him. But when she's starting to have problems in the relationship, she brings that up more and more as ammunition, okay? And what happens is the guy, when he comes back, all of a sudden starts to be a clean freak. He starts to pick up the crumbs from the toaster. He starts to take the laundry out. And the weird thing is, the girl doesn't like it. You don't have to do that because she typecasted him. She's used to him not doing those things. And by him all of a sudden doing them, she feels less significant or less important. Now, in some cases, she might go, wow, you're doing the laundry now, sarcastically. But if she thinks you're doing that just to get her back, there will be a little bit of contempt. On the flip side, how long can you wear that costume? Do you really have it built in to clean? So this is where the overcompensating comes in, right? Oh, we didn't spend enough nights, going out to dinner. So right when you get back together, you spend the next Sunday going out to lunch, go to the park, you do all these romantic things. The other person is going, oh, this is great. Can you keep that up if it's not in your regimen, if it's not who you are? So the overcompensate comes in when you get back together, because usually you ease back into who you are, right? Number 5. Now, I did overcompensate twice by writing 3 and 4. I don't know how that got backwards then. Number 5, do you really want them back, or is it just an ego? Number 1, sometimes it's ego. It's like, I just want to prove that I didn't get rejected. Number 2, is it intimacy? Do I just want to hook up? Am I just, blocked a little bit, right? And you had great intimacy in the relationship. And when you break up, usually makeup sex is really good. So that could be one. Or you're just lonely. Some people just cannot deal with being alone in a room. If you were the one left with the apartment, it's very lonely. And they got to move in with family or friends or roommates. So those are reasons. Do you really want them back, or is it just ego, intimacy, loneliness? And I'll add one more that you might not think of. Pity. Pity's an interesting one, because people that know pity will play on it. And it's kind of a dangerous one, because if you're a nice guy or you're a nice woman and you still have feelings for your partner, but deep down you're like, I don't trust that this relationship's going to be very good because our connection is just not that good. We're not that attracted to each other, whatever it is. But you have pity because they like you more than you like them. And so you feel like, I'll give it another chance because they're so good to me. They're so great to me. Pity's not a reason to get back together, because you're selling yourself short. Number 6, do you believe you can do better? It's a fair question, right? We have hypergamy for women, where women are supposedly always going to date equal or above their value. Men don't really care as much. So post-breakup, at some point, do you believe you can do better? Now, this sounds extremely shallow to some people. Some people might go, well, why would you even think that? Be honest with yourself. That's a great question to ask. Do you believe you can do better? Now, someone might be out of a breakup and thinking, I don't want to date. I don't want to be involved in a relationship, but I think I can do better. Okay. That's good to know. That's good to know. If you feel like that's part of the worst situations to be in post-breakup, it's like, oh, I can never do better. I really batted above my weight here. I got really lucky meeting her or him. Tough situation to be in. That's a confidence and insecurity issue. Number 7. Now, this one, I say with a grain of salt and an exception to it. What do your close friends and family think? Now, this is why I say this. First of all, keep in mind which family and friends that you trust opinions on your relationship. So if there's a friend of yours that's not very good in relationships, doesn't respect women anyways, always hated your ex, etc., then I wouldn't go on their opinion. But if you've been in a relationship 2, 3, 4 years, they've been on the sidelines spectating, have a different view of the whole situation, and they're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, honestly, I thought she treated you really bad. Now they're probably going to use other words for that. Because if you ask me, before I was even a breakup coach, help people out with their things, their problems. If you ask me to judge a friend's girlfriend, right? A buddy of mine's girlfriend, or maybe just a colleague. If I'm out and I'm extremely observant by nature, okay, just how I am. What I find impressive is not how the girlfriend looks, because I'm not sleeping with her. I'm not partial to being attracted to her or not attracted to her. Attraction is something that is in the eye of the beholder, in the eye of the person that they're attracted to, okay? I don't even think I said that correctly, but you know what I mean, okay? So if whether I find my friend's girlfriend attractive or not is not going to decide whether I think she's good for him. What's going to decide that is, how does she treat him? Does she treat him well, with respect and love and kindness? Does she care about making a good impression on friends and family? That's impressive to me. Some of the, you know what I mean? It's totally different for that perception. Whereas if a guy's like, well, she's hot, you can just deal with it. There's always going to be a trade-off in your relationships and what you deal with and what you don't deal with based on your values and your morals. Now, here's the thing. If you have some good close friends and family and you've had 4 or 5 girlfriends, 4 or 5 boyfriends or whatever, you have a few relationships and you've gotten, you know, you respect your mom's opinion or you respect your brother's opinion. But look at what they've said before and what they're saying now. And if something that you see but you're pushing away, such as them being extremely needy, guilt-ridden, or some shocking things they've accused you of, false accusations are a big one, guilt or jealous drama, and you're taking them back over and over again, possibly out of pity, possibly out of just fear of loneliness, your friends and family will go, this one's really a piece of work, right? Like, take that into account. Not always, and this is kind of a minefield, because like I said, friends and family doing this for a long time, there's some friends and family you don't want their opinion. Some friends and family want you to be single. Some of them want you to be miserable because people want you to feel what they feel, and if they're miserable, they want you miserable. So any chance they get, they'll be like, oh yeah, you need to be single again. So this is one of the last one I just mentioned. It's something to really understand whose opinion you're getting, right? All right. Paltry Flowers, do you have any individual questions or topics that you want me to touch on? I know you've made comments on the show before, so you usually don't come on the live stream, so I'm assuming you're in a different time zone than the States, which I am too. Let me know if there's a topic or something you want me to touch on. And you're right, pity's a big one. It's underrated. Men will do it for women too. And it's really, you know, if you think of yourself as a kind, good person and you love or care about the other person or even like them, you're susceptible to pity. Sometimes men will throw a pity net out there, and if the woman's nice enough and caring enough, she'll take him back. But really, she's not more attracted to him. She feels sorry for him. All right, let me pull up this story really quick. And if any of you want to go to writemac.com, send your story in, please do. Is it possible to get back together after a second breakup? Absolutely. I mean, I'd have to know your story to give you more of a professional analysis of that. But absolutely. Actually, to be honest with you, if you've had more than one breakup and you've gotten back together once, usually subconsciously you think, well, we'll get back together again. Priscilla, you're going to hear me say this a lot, Mrs. Rodriguez or Miss Rodriguez. It depends on the problems. Depends on where you're at in life. And so there's a lot of intricate parts to this. And this is what happens on YouTube right now. There's all these generalizations. Oh, on a second breakup, that'll never happen. It's like, what happened in your relationship? I need to know. Send your story in or book a live coaching session. We'll get deep. If you don't find it useful or helpful, I will fully refund you. I don't know if anyone else is offering that. I'll stand on that. Very good at what I do. It's been 5 years. It's been a long road. Put up 4 fingers, but I meant 5. Okay. But absolutely, you can get back together after a second breakup. You're actually more likely to, because you've hooked up after one before. So you know the yellow brick road back to get together, and you know what buttons to push. Doesn't mean it's a good thing. It's just like the couples that, we've made up and broke up 5 times. It's like you're following a pattern there. And you also both believe, well, we're going to get back together. The dangerous part about that, you keep doing that, someone's going to get sick of it. And then the other person goes, wait a minute, you changed the game. Right? What's up, Parisa? Do exes come back years later? Absolutely. Why not? Do they all do it? No. But you know when they do it? You want to know when they do it? If it's been years later, we're talking 2 years with an S, right? 2, 3, 4 years. They've had another relationship, or 2 or 3. And what happens with a lot of people post breakup, they don't all do it. They look back on their past relationships and they go, oh, maybe I should contact Kim. Because you're like, oh, would Kim have done this to me? You start comparing your other relationships. And people also go back to their exes years later if drinking or drugs or money was a problem or their maturity level was gone, what have you. If they've changed from 2, 3, 4 years ago and they still hold you in a high light, yeah, then I'll add to that, Paltry Flowers. Let's keep in mind, was the attraction high? Were you a good partner? Those are big things, right? I would say years later is not necessarily a bad thing because it means that you've both changed, I hope. Both. Right? So, let's get into the story. Let me take a quick sip of water here. Thank you. Had 2 sessions today in the morning that were 2 hours each. A little parched. Okay. Hello, coach. I broke up with my girlfriend a month ago, and then 2 weeks after the breakup, we hooked up and she started staying over every night since, and I'm actually not sold on getting back together officially. But we are back together. We've already had a few arguments about stuff that I thought was over, but it just revealed she's holding some stuff still. All right, so right there, you still have problems. The idea that you're in this gray area is good for you because if you're saying she came back and she's staying over every night, meaning you have the place where she wants to stay. That's leverage. So you don't have to move. She does. Okay, someone might not like the idea of leverage, but some people don't have, let's say if you have the nice apartment in Paris. I had a client like this. I think Paris is probably a really expensive place, she confirmed. And there was a guy that she was with that seemed to be using her apartment as an extra in the relationship, right? And staying with her. And so when you're in a breakup or whatnot, some people can value that part. So when you're saying that she's staying at your house, she came back after moving all her stuff out, and now she wants to stay there every night. That means your place is better than her place? Just a question. And if it's leaps and bounds better, well then you have leverage. I would say that if you're not comfortable, tell her to keep her stuff at her house and start dating again. Don't move back in together right away. For the record, she broke up with me, which actually I was fine with. I knew that we would eventually break up as she just can't handle her emotions. She eventually said sorry, but she's so damn petty on things. She can never lose an argument and switches the topic to spin it into something she can feel like she's winning. Read those sentences again, and if that continues to happen, be done. Change the locks on the door. That kind of behavior in a relationship is just going to twist and turn you. And obviously, there are people out there that arguments, problems, they just have to win. They just have to win. It's just ridiculous. And you'll see this on debates on YouTube where someone just goes off the rails and goes into emotional, non-factual stuff, but calls it factual and just grabs stuff. And the other person's like, that's not even true. How's that true? It's the same thing in a relationship where someone's not listening to your point. You make a really good point, you use reason and logic, and then they go into a different direction to win. What happens with that is if they entangle you in that net, you start to feel like I can never win. And it becomes a game with you, explaining yourself out of situations that you don't even want to talk about. When things are right, they are really good, and then she just ruins it. So the fact that you believe that, you're going to make that true again and again. So you just wrote that. You haven't wrote like, oh, you know what? When things are really good, they're good. Like, you're expecting the other foot to drop, so it's going to drop. You're going to be looking for this. Now that she's been back, she said that she learned her lesson and admitted that she's immature and that she wants to stop that. Now, 2 weeks later, she's asking me when she can move all her stuff back, which I don't really want at this point. I also feel like we will break up again, and I don't know why I'm carrying this on. I don't feel any sort of deep love here, as we've been together for 1.5 years, and 7 months of that was complete long distance with multiple breakups. Sounds a bit sketchy, bud, but she's got this complete angel side to her that always brings hope to my worries of her immaturity. I feel like she's always knows how to be accountable and sorry, but she's 33. Do you believe she can really change in 2 weeks, or am I just asking for this continued issues of breaking up to make up? I mean, if we were doing a live coaching, I'd need to know specifically what are the problems. What are you fighting over specifically? Like, you're not saying what it is, because it counts. This is what we get into in a coaching session. Let's get into the specifics. We have problems. What are the problems? Oh, it's not that big a deal. Yeah, it is. I mean, immaturity about what? Being petty about what? Right now, it's great, but I've lost trust in her words, and I'm not sure it will ever be a situation where I have that full trust in her not wanting to break up again. Well, there you go. You have an insecurity that we've broken up multiple times, and that's her way of dealing with things. I've heard you mention that couples get back together, but they must fix the problems. I feel like she's been accountable, and she's actually fixed one problem for sure. She got a job during this last breakup and now supporting herself fully, which was an issue for us. She believed that the man should always provide, and I told her I'm with that, but at this point I just couldn't afford to do it. I feel like she never really understood that. And when money issues come up, she can get nasty. All the while, she doesn't have a dime to her name and keeps bellowing on proudly about how she doesn't care about money. Isn't that interesting? Maybe because she always finds someone else to live off of. So this is really good you wrote this. You obviously have strong feelings for her, or you wouldn't allow her back in the house. Intimacy is what got her back in the door, because you said you hooked up and then she's been at the house ever since. Behind closed doors of your mind, which you're disclosing right now, you don't believe this is going to work. You are actually backhanded compliments here. I mean, what's the good parts? She's an angel sometimes, but she got a job, but. So right now it's like, oh, she fixed one problem, but I know that she doesn't care. You know what I mean? You haven't given her credit for anything either. If you really wanted this work, maybe do a couples counselor, but you have to give her the benefit of the doubt. And that's the hardest part about getting back together post breakup, is when you're together and you start dating and you're freshly dating. If you can't give someone the benefit of the doubt because you don't know them that well yet, him or her, then you can't get anywhere. And so people that are extremely insecure about trust and whatnot, they scorch relationships right away that are actually good sometimes because they can't give a benefit of the doubt. If you're going to take her back, you got to give her the benefit of the doubt that maybe some of these problems are fixed and she's found the way until she hasn't. But if you assume that it's just not going to work, well, then you're going to make that a reality because your subconscious wants to be correct. So just to read that again. And when money issues come up, she's getting nasty all the while. She doesn't have a dime to her name, keeps bellowing on how proudly she doesn't care about money, maybe because she always finds someone else to live off of. Now I'm getting bitter. She really doesn't ask me for much. I guess I just don't want to commit to her again. But I feel bad, and I don't know how to go about having that talk. How do I cut the cord? Any thoughts? Any thoughts from the live stream here? One thing that seems apparent is he took her back out of pity, the way he's writing this. Probably a little bit of fear of loneliness and the intimacy. I don't think it's an ego game. And the fact that the history of their relationship was breakup, makeup, breakup, makeup, just because he said during long distance they broke up multiple times. Now he doesn't have any confidence. And now he can't give her the benefit of the doubt. Whereas if you were dating over again, and really when you break up for a significant amount of time, you're starting over again. You're not starting from zero, but you're starting at a different point than where you were at, because there is going to be less trust. There just is. Sam Lujan, how you doing? So now when he sees something like this, and he goes, how do I cut the cord? The question is, do you really want to cut the cord? And why haven't you cut the cord? Now, a question for a question is not something I usually recommend, right? I hate when people do that. I ask a question, they answer with a question. Cut the cord is easy. You sit down, you have a talk, you say it's not going to work out, I don't trust you anymore. But there's a big fear here of what? My question would be, what are you fearing? Are you fearing loneliness? Are you fearing hurting her? Are you fearing missing out? That she could really turn things around? My opinion, one thing and only thing is that the girl ain't for him. The time will show him. So move on now or suffer longer with her. Otherwise, book a session with Mac. Well, thanks for that, Sabina. Oh, man. Sometimes I'm going to have to start doing some voice exercises. All right. Any open questions? Anyone want to ask any questions about their relationship, their situation, or a topic that you want me to touch on? Haven't done a live stream in a little while, but I'm open to any questions. That is an interesting question, right? When Paltry Flower says, do exes come back years later? I've heard some women on YouTube go, my exes always come back. Really? What do you mean younger, older advice? Can you elaborate? I'm not sure what you mean by that. When they say my exes always come back, how would you characterize someone coming back? Because to me, sometimes someone goes, oh, they called again. Ha ha ha. Does that mean they came back or they were just checking in? Some people are just curious. They want to get a temperature read. You know, an interesting thing to put to Priscilla's comment about getting back together after a second breakup. Are the circumstances completely different than the first breakup? Or are they the same problems? If they're the same problems, odds are it's not going to work. What mistakes does the older half make? I don't understand the question. Am I missing something here? Elaborate a little bit. You mean someone that's older in a relationship? It's very important if you're going to communicate, especially with breakups. Make sure when you don't understand something to ask some more questions, because miscommunication is the root of a lot of problems. Does anyone else out there on the live stream have a situation where you've had an ex come back years later? I've had it happen. And I don't think it's as glorious as people think. I think people look at it, oh, that would be great. They just look at it like it's a great thing. It's usually a surprise, because if it's years later, where did this come from? Oh, thank the Lord. Came back on what term? What did younger folks appreciate and not appreciate these days? My clients that I would say were younger, in their early 20s, I would say, especially the boys or the men in their early 20s, looks is a big deal based on Instagram and pictures and things like that. But I think it's always been that way. Doing this work for a long time, though, now, people are more intricate individually than you'll ever know. And so, you know, just look at your friends, look at your sphere of influence, look at your colleagues, paltry flowers, people you really know well. You know, sometimes you'll be like, oh, someone reminds me of someone. But they're not the same person. If I said Eduardo Martinez reminds me of my friend John. Really, he's probably maybe looks like him a little bit, has the same glasses. So when you do this thing where younger folks, the number one thing is probably social media presence and importance in relationships. That's probably big. Top 3 characteristics that you look for when meeting a woman? Well, they certainly have changed over the years. I would say kindness, sweetness, but those go hand in hand. Certain level of intelligence. And a value on physical fitness and health. I would say that's really big. I would say that's big. All right, folks, I'm going to keep this live stream a little bit short as I'm really parched right now in my throat. And I think it's just, as I'm talking about health, I think it's just because I talked so much in the morning. Sabina says health. It's a big one. It says a lot about a person. Mental health. All right, folks, I'll be back on deck more this week. I appreciate you all. Please put on the comments if you got anything that you want to add. Otherwise, go to rightmac.com if you want to book a live coaching session. Thank you.